Greetings to you all. This is Dr. G. IMMANUEL, Assistant Professor Senior Grade, Department of English, South Engineering College, Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. I take immense pleasure in virtually presiding over as keynote speaker for the Global Edu-conclave 2025 on the theme Interdisciplinary Research for a Sustainable Future. My title for the deliberation this day is Language and Literature, Its Impact on the Environment. Language and literature are more than mere tools of communication or artistic expression. They play a profound role in shaping human thought, cultural values, and collective attitudes towards the natural environment. From ancient oral traditions to the contemporary environmental writings, language and literature have consistently reflected the relationship between humanity and nature, thereby influencing how societies perceive, treat, and protect the environment. At the outset, looking language as a medium of environmental awareness, language has always been central to how communities express their relationship with the earth. Words and metaphors often embody ecological wisdom. For instance, indigenous languages carry terms that describe specific plants, animals, and ecological cycles, preserving intricate environmental knowledge passed down through generations. The loss of such languages often results in the erosion of ecological knowledge as well. Moreover, the choice of language in specific reports, policies, and education shapes the way people understand environmental issues. Neutral or technical terms like climate change may not evoke urgency, whereas words like climate crisis or climate emergency can trigger stronger emotional responses, mobilizing people into action. Thus, the power of language lies in its ability to either inspire, care, or breed indifference towards environmental challenges. Now, looking at literature as a mirror of nature, literature in all its forms, poetry, fiction, essays, and drama, has served as a mirror of natural world and human interaction with it. Romantic poets like William Wordsworth, P.B. Shelley highlighted the spiritual and aesthetic significance of nature, urging readers to see the environment not as a resource to exploit, but as a source of inspiration and moral guidance. Similarly, in Indian literature, Rabindranath Tagore's works celebrate the harmony between humanity and the environment, while Tanvil Sangam poetry richly depicts landscapes and their influence on human emotions and society. Modern literature has moved beyond mere celebration of nature to critique human activities that threaten ecological balance. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring in 1962 is a landmark example. Her vivid and persuasive prose exposed the dangers of pesticide use, sparkling the global environmental movement. Contemporary ecological literature continues this legacy, highlighting issues such as deforestation, pollution, biodiversity loss, and climate change. Through storytelling, literature fosters empathy and a sense of responsibility towards the planet. Shaping environmental ethics and values. Language and literature not only describe the environment but also shape moral and ethical frameworks. Myths, folktales, and sacred texts across cultures teach respect for nature. For example, many Indian epics personify rivers, mountains, and forests as deities, cultivating a sense of reverence. Such literary traditions fostered values of sustainability long before environmental science emerged as a discipline. In modern times, eco-criticism, a field of literary study, explores how texts represent the environment and how literature can influence ecological thinking. By engaging with eco-critical works, readers learn to question anthropocentric worldviews and adopt eco-centric perspectives, seeing themselves as a part of natural web rather than separate from it. Now, literature as a tool for change. Stories and poems have the unique ability to touch hearts in ways that statistics and data cannot. While scientific research warns us of environmental dangers, literature translates these abstract concerns into lived human experiences. Novels like Amitav Ghosh's The Hungry Tide and Barbara Kingsolver's Flight Behavior bring issues like rising sea levels and climate change into personal narratives, making them relatable and urgent. Environmental campaigns also draw upon literature and linguistic strategies. Slogans, protest poetry, and climate fiction, we call it as cli-fi, influence public opinion and inspire activism. The fusion of powerful language and imaginative literature creates a cultural momentum towards sustainability. Looking at language as a medium of ecological thought, language plays a vital role in shaping environmental awareness. Indigenous languages, for example, are rich in words describing the flora, fauna, and the ecological processes. The Hopi language of North America has distinct terms for rainfall and water cycles, while many Indian tribal dialects contain detailed vocabulary for forest plants used in medicine. Losing these languages also means losing ecological knowledge. The use of language in environmental disclosure also influences perception. For instance, the difference between calling it global warming and climate crisis is not merely semantic. It changes the urgency with which society responds. Political speeches, protest slogans, and even social media campaigns rely on language to inspire collective responsibility for environmental preservation. Looking at literature as a reflection of nature, from the earliest poems to modern novels, literature has been deeply entwined with nature. In English literature, the Romantic poets placed the natural world at the center of their works. William Wordsworth's lines, written a few miles above Tintana Bay, celebrates the restorative power of nature, while P.B. Shelley's Ode to the West Wind treats nature as both destructive and regenerative, linking natural cycles to human renewal. In Indian literature, nature is equally celebrated. The Tamil Sangam poems classify human emotions by associating them with landscapes. Kurinji as mountain, Marudam as farmland, Mullai represents forest, Neidal represents seashore, and Palai represents desert. This shows how ancient literature recognized the interdependence of human life and the environment. Rabindranath Tagore's poetry too often depicted rivers, forests, and rural life, reminding readers of the harmony between humans and nature. In American literature, writers like Henry David Thoreau in Walden in 1854 promoted simple living close to nature. His language reflected a deep respect for the environment, inspiring generations of environmental thinkers. Similarly, John Muir's essay on the beauty of American wilderness contributed to the creation of national parks. Looking at literature as a catalyst for environmental action, modern environmental literature goes beyond appreciation of nature. It calls for action against ecological destruction. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring 1962 used lyrical yet persuasive prose to expose the dangers of pesticides, sparkling the global environmental movement. Amitav Ghosh in The Hungry Tide in 2004 examines the fragile Sundarbans ecosystem, highlighting how climate change and human exploitation threaten both biodiversity and human survival. Now, combining language, literature with environmental ethics. Stories, myths, and religious texts use language and symbolism to instill respect for nature. In Indian epic like Ramayana and Mahabharata, rivers, forests, and animals are revered, symbolizing ecological reverence. Similarly, Native Americans' folk tales often describe animals and landscapes as sacred, teaching values of balance and sustainability. So literary criticism has also contributed to environmental awareness. The field of eco-criticism studies how literature represents the relationship between human and nature, challenging anthropocentric ideas and encouraging ecocentric perspectives. So in conclusion, language and literature are not merely reflections of culture. They actively shape environmental values and actions. Through words, metaphors, poems and stories, they teach us to appreciate, respect and protect the natural world. From Wordsworth's lyrical landscapes to Tagore's river songs, from Carson's warnings to Ghosh's climate narratives, literature has continually reminded us that the fate of humanity is inseparably linked with the fate of nature. At the time of global ecological crisis, the power of language and literature is more vital than ever. They not only preserve environmental wisdom, but also inspire collective responsibility for a sustainable future. So, the impact of literature and language on the environment is profound and multidimensional. Language frames our understanding of ecological issues, while literature deepens our emotional connection with the natural world. Together, they shape values, inspire action, and preserve the wisdom necessary for sustainable living. In an era of unprecedented environmental crisis, it is not only scientific innovations, but also the power of words and stories that can guide humanity toward a more harmonious relationship with the earth. Thank you very much for your patience listening.